Have any of you ever been driving when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, BAM! A rock hits your car? Well, today I'm going to tell you a little story about when I was 11 years old and I got into trouble with the cops for throwing rocks at cars from on top of a hillside. I hope that by telling you this story, you'll be entertained by my childhood stupidity, but I also hope that you will become more aware of your actions and hopefully avoid ever getting into a situation similar to this. What I'm going to be telling you today is when, where, and how the situation occurred, what it escalated to in the climax, and finally I will be giving you my analysis on the entire situation. The first thing that I'll speak of is the context of my rock throwing experience. It was a weekend and my parents decided that they wanted to go out on a date. So they decided to leave my older brother, my younger sister, and I at my aunt's house since we needed a babysitter. My younger sister stayed in and played with my younger female cousins, while my 14-year-old brother, my 12-year-old cousin, and I went outside to go play. Eventually, it got later and darker, and we had nothing to do, so my cousin decided that we should go to his hillside, which was shaded by many trees and located on the side of the main street. On this hillside, we discovered that there were thousands of rocks all over the floor. So, being young and stupid, we started picking them up and throwing them into the street. Now that you know the context of my situation, I will go on and get into a little bit more detail of the mischievous climax of my story. Again and again, we continued to throw rocks into the street until just throwing it at the street got boring. We decided that we needed more of a challenge and figured out that we should start throwing them at moving objects, which just happened to be the cars passing by on the main street below. We continued to hit and miss. So we decided that we needed to slow the cars down. We looked around and found some bricks and an old ice chest, placed them in the middle of the road to act as a roadblock. And from that point on, we did not miss a single car. Suddenly, out of nowhere, we heard a voice telling us, "Don't move!" So the first thing we did, we split up and ran, eventually rendezvousing back at my cousin's house. We thought that we had successfully escaped until, out of nowhere, a knock on the door. Our stomachs sank, and sure enough, it was the police. They escorted us to a nearby 7-Eleven, where a family whose car we had hit was waiting with the mother weeping in tears. She told us that she did not want us to go down the wrong path or to end up in prison someday. Eventually, the cops let us go because apparently all they wanted to do was scare us into never doing something as stupid as that again, and the family didn't want to press charges on us. So now that you know my tale of mischief, I will go on to analyze the situation, though it's been many years since it actually occurred. Looking back, I decided to interview my brother Daniel on March 3rd, 2013. When I asked him about the situation, he responded, "We were young and dumb, but we could have caused more damage than just a few dings and dents on the hood of a car." I agree with what my brother said, especially with the fact that we could have caused more damage, and I'm just grateful that we did not. Doing further research, I read an uncredited article titled "Assault Law" on the Worldwide Legal Directory's website and found that we could have actually been charged with assault, which could have led all of us to end up in a juvenile detention center. So, now you all know the terrible tale of Matthew and the rocks that were thrown from on top of the hillside. I went over with you the context of my experience. I explained the climactic detention by the cops of my brother, my cousin, and I finally gave you an analysis of the entire situation. I hope that by telling you this story, you will all be inspired to make sure that your children, whether you have children now or plan on having them in the future, will stay on a path that leads them to Yale, not jail.